So welcome everyone. I appreciate you all coming and giving up your day to spend an hour with us today. Today we're going to be talking about my home seller workshop. For those that don't know, I wrote a book, and the whole premise of this workshop today is about the book I wrote. It's called The Only Way to Sell Your Home. This is my second edition of the book. And I've probably spent a good 3 years, and the workshop's going to follow a lot of the principles that are in this book today. So we'll be talking about, some of the things we'll be talking about is tax savings, how to save up to $500,000 on the sale of your primary residence if you're a joint tax filer. If you're a single tax filer, you can save up to $250,000. We'll be talking about some improvements that will add dollar value to your home, some things to think about and what things not to think about. And the third thing, we'll be talking about the all-inclusive process, like what's involved in selling a home in today's market. So with that, I'd like to introduce myself, tell you a little bit about who I am. I'm a real estate broker. I've been doing this for 37 years. As you can see on the screen, hopefully everyone in the room can see that. I've done lots of different things for the last 37 years. I've been involved in a little over 1,000 real estate transactions. I write tons of articles. I'm a speaker. I speak around the country on technology and real estate. And I've been awarded all different types of awards for some of my real estate sales. And I'm featured a lot in some of the local print and newspapers. You'll see me a lot in the Philadelphia Inquirer. So that's a little bit about my background. What the workshop and how this all works is, it's about changing your mindset, right? This is what our most successful clients that we work with are the ones that grasp this concept about how to separate your property, your home, and turn it into a real estate asset. It's about changing the showing conditions to appeal to the mass market, right? Taking away the pictures of the kids when they were younger and taking away all that personal property and make it appeal to the large market. The second part we talk about is preparation, right? How far in advance should someone be preparing? Some real estate companies believe you can start in a day or 2 days. For those that are here at this workshop today, we talk about a 1-year process, and you're going to hear why that is today, why we recommend to start so far in advance. And the final part of what we're going to talk today about is improvements, what things you can do to your house to add value. So for those that are here today, we're also fortunate for those that couldn't come, we're also doing a recording, so you'll be able to, for those that couldn't make it, will be able to listen to this. And anyone that's on the call or anyone that is here today, you have access, lifetime access to our concierge system. So in this concierge system, we have all kinds of vendors for you. We have painters and plumbers and handymen and electricians. And whatever you need, they're all in here. We're happy to refer you to those people. We do keep tabs on our people, so we like to know if we refer someone to you, did they do a good job? Did they show up on time? Were they priced what they said they were going to do? And then we add, subtract vendors based on how they perform, okay? So keep that in mind. So this book that I write, What You Really Need to Know About Selling, was your first version. This is The Only Way to Sell Your Home. This is our latest version. And what we talk about and why we tell you to start so far in advance is, the first concept is the pre-sale home inspection. We believe it's probably the single most important step in the process of selling your home, and that is to perform a home inspection before you sell your home, right? The old-fashioned way is you would sell your home, you would agree to a price, and then the home inspector would come in and do a home inspection. The problem with that method is they would try to renegotiate your price when they find things wrong with it. So what we're suggesting about in the workshop today is do it ahead of time. We think it's the single most important thing to do. And you can save thousands of dollars by doing it up front. You can eliminate all the surprises that occur in the back end when you go to sell your property, right? The other thing is it's a security blanket for buyers, and it helps improve confidence in the transaction as to why they're going to buy your home. So the way this process works is before you're selling your home, you would have an inspection done. And the inspector would come into your home and be looking at the electric, the plumbing, the roof, the basement, the grading, all these aspects of your home. And then they're going to likely find something that's not right, and they're going to give you this report that will show whatever things they found or identified that could be problematic. By doing it a year in advance, you have the opportunity to correct. You can elect to correct things, right? You can say, I don't want to do anything. You could sell it just the way it is. Or you could do, maybe fix a couple things and decide what to do. So what we do is we strategically look at the report and figure out what's the most efficient way that we could call one of our vendors. Remember, we talked about the vendors before, how we could utilize these vendors and get, if there are 20 items on the report, maybe we decide we want to fix 10 of them. Because what we found is if you give a buyer an inspection report that has no defects, it's not credible. So what we want to do is we want to maybe fix 10 things. So instead of looking at a report with like 40 items, we have 30 or 20 items left. So it's much more credible. The reason to do this in advance, you have a time to negotiate with contractors, right? So if you wait and you sell your property and then you do the inspection, the problem with that is you're in this time crunch, right? You have your house off the market, the buyer does a home inspection, it finds things wrong, and they say, aha, I want to lower the price, or I want you to fix these various items. So under this method we're talking about is you're doing it preemptively before the buyer even comes into the picture, okay? The other thing I want to talk about is the last item on this is about contract language. So by contract language, what we mean by that is we would ask the buyer agent who is making the offer on your home to include language in the contract that would say something to the effect of exclude the defects identified on the pre-sale home inspection report performed by ASHI Home Inspector Mr. or Mrs. X. So what we're doing by putting that language in is we're setting the expectation that we're not looking to renegotiate your price. So that's the real benefit of the concept of pre-sale inspection. And if you grasp, everyone that's here, if you grasp that concept so far and you don't have a lot of questions, which again, we're going to hold all the questions to the end. So whatever questions you have, we'll save them to the end. But the concept of this pre-sale is we want to set the expectation up with our buyer that we know about this item and we're not going to renegotiate the price. Our price is based on the knowledge of whatever items are on that inspection report, okay? So that's how it works. And it works, it's very, very effective. It's a very effective program. And by the way, this program that we're talking about originated in the corporate world when people were relocating, when companies used to move you from here to Texas. They would never buy your home until they did a pre-sale home inspection. It's the same basic concept. So with that, we're going to move on to the next section, and I'm taking you further in the process of the book, and we're talking about those that are here at the workshop. You're most likely thinking of selling. Maybe you're 6 months away, maybe you're a year. I think there's some people that I recognize that are 5 years away. That's perfectly okay, but if we're taking the assumption that you're going to sell your home at some point, and at that point you're going to hire a real estate office, a real estate company. Now that doesn't mean you have to. You can sell your house on your own. That's an option. For the purpose of the workshop today, we're talking about using a real estate company. So at that point, you would enter into an agreement, a listing agreement to sell your home. And in the book, we talk about this day-to-day agreement and why you should do it. And the reason you should do it are all the issues that we spelled out here on the presentation. These are the problems. I've been doing this for 37 years that I hear about continually. And the problems are agents don't return telephone calls, right? They don't give any feedback on showings. The property is listed, but there's no presence on the internet. There's no 3D tour of the property. There's no direct mail. There's no marketing. It's just all the problems I hear about. So what we decided to do was create this easy exit, and I'm hoping everybody here in the room can see this, but what I want to call your attention to is in this is that you can terminate your agreement at any time with 2 weeks advance written notice. The only area that it would not cover is if you are negotiating actively with a buyer, or if you've sold your house and you're a week before settlement, you wouldn't be able to exit that because that wouldn't be fair. So this strategy, I strongly recommend that you make sure whoever you're going to sell your house with that they offer this. Now, the caveat is a lot of real estate companies aren't able to do this. And the reason they can't do it is they have hundreds or 200 people in an office, and if they gave their client the ability to exit, they would lose their inventory very quickly. So we put this together because we wanted to make sure that you were happy with what we're doing, because if you're not happy, you tell so many other people about unhappiness. So, and we've grown our business based on exceeding people's expectations. So this forces us to perform at a very, very high level. So that's the concept here. The next section we're going to talk about has to do with the market and pricing and how we figure out what the best time to sell a property is. And the final thing is we're going to talk about is pricing and what to look out for in pricing. So we're first going to start with absorption. Absorption is an analysis we do every time we're selling a home. We want to know how many days it will take the market to absorb or sell the inventory that's on the market. So we look at how many active homes there are. Then we look at how many sold in the prior 12 months. And we calculate how many days it's going to take the market to absorb the inventory. Because we want to be selling your home at a time when the absorption number is very low, which means very little competition, which means your house should sell at a higher price in a shorter period of time. So we do watch seasonality, and we calculate absorption, and we can tell people when the best time might be. But the other part of the answer is the best time really many times is when it's best for your family and your moving situation, and absorption can't come into the picture because you need to move at a certain period of time, and that's when you have to move. The next thing we do is something where we come in and do a home evaluation. That's when we look at the home, we look at the features, the benefits, and then we compare it against all the other homes in the marketplace to try to figure out what the value is, right? Because there's algorithms you can use. Like in the room, how many of you are familiar with like Zillow and all that, right? I see some hands going up. So Zillow is an algorithm, right? But Zillow doesn't know if your house has a brand new kitchen or your house is located next to a house that's in poor condition next door, right? It looks at certain things, like it knows how many square feet, it knows bedrooms, it knows bathrooms, it knows assessments, it knows those features. So it's an algorithm. It's not a perfect, price. So what we try to do is look at comparables and try to look at things. We call it like the bowl of fruit. We try to find things. If your house is an apple, we want to try to compare it to another apple. Meaning, if it's got a 2-car garage, does the other home have a 2-car garage that we're comparing against? And if it doesn't, there are factors we use to try to equalize those values. And what we experience by these two graphs are probably the best example I can give everybody here in the room today about pricing. And that is this graph. There's kind of two graphs here. There's one on the top and one on the bottom. So the one on the top shows you that maybe everybody in the room, you're thinking about selling. Maybe you're somewhere down in here. But this is when the property, you decide to list, and then it goes on the market right in here. What I'm trying to show you is on this axis, it's showings and interest in the house. See how it's building. So you get the most showings and interest in the first couple weeks, right? You see how this curve goes up and stays up tall. What happens though, after week 4, interest starts to fall down. And then in week number 6, you see there's a flat line in here. I didn't have enough space to show you that the market would level out over time because most of the market has already seen your home, right? So that just is trying to show you where the interest level always falls under this curve right here. But the second part of this graph shows you about pricing. And what this does is it shows you where you think you want to list your house, right? How much you want to ask for your house. So what happens is, and time is along this axis, right? So you see how there's like a series of steps here, okay? So what happens is people generally start up here. They want to be higher than what the market is going to accept for their home. And this is the actual market value, what the market thinks the value of the home is. So what happens is they start the price up high, and this happens, we see this a lot, and then some time goes by and no one is interested in the house, so the only other option is to start lowering the price. So it becomes like a step. And then some more time goes by and you lower it again. The problem with this example is that you many times end up, see how you end up here? You end up below what the market value of the house is. So that's why we're really, really careful about pricing. Yes, we look at algorithms, right? But we really focus on trying to compare it against other homes in the neighborhood. And we try to define it by school district. Sometimes it's by zip code. We're just trying to, if it's a contemporary home, we like to compare it against other contemporary homes. Sometimes there's nothing else we can compare it to. There's not another piece of fruit. So we need to look maybe outside of the area to try to see and give us some guidance in that respect. But that's pretty much in a nutshell what we're talking about when we talk about setting the right price, okay? And again, if you could hold your questions till the end and then we'll address them. So we're now going to move a little further. In the book, we talk about the process of selling the house and what the steps are and what happens from a marketing perspective. So from a marketing perspective, we first start with photography, right? We want to make it really, really good pictures. So what we try to do is the HDR photography, which is taking a lot of images of the same house. They're just very, very rich images. And the imagery is super important, right? We only have a couple of seconds because there's so many choice and so many videos and so much noise that you want to make your listing stand out. So it's very important to capture exterior and interior pictures first. The next thing we do is every house that we have has a drone, right? So the drone, there's a little picture of a drone right here. There's a camera mounted here, and it goes on top of the house. We lift it up. It makes your house stand up higher. It gives it a much more important presence. Also, buyers like it because they can see what's happening with the topography, right? Is it a flat lot? Is it sloping lot? What's the house look like next door? People like to see that information. So that's very important to present, and we do it for every property. And again, it's weather dependent. In certain areas we were not allowed to film in if there's something happening. So we follow the protocol and we try like heck to do it. The next piece is one of my favorite, and I could probably spend all day about it, is we do a lot of targeted direct marketing, so direct mail. These are postcards. And this sample, you're going to see it that it's got a picture of the house. So we're sending these out before it comes to market. We're sending them out after it comes to market. It's to continually engage the neighborhood. And our engagement rate on these postcards, we run anywhere from, I'd say, 5% to 40% response rate. So we get a really, really high response rate. But you can see that it has some QR code, so it's got a lot of call to action. So people respond to this, and then we start the dialogue to try to see, are they thinking of selling? Do they know another family member, friend, or neighbor that's looking? And that's how we get the dialogue going on the property. And then one of the most amazing things we do is we create a website for the property. So every single property has a website, and we do that because Google likes certain things, and it's a way to get your home to stand out among the crowd, right? We want it to come out first. When someone's searching for your home, we want it to show up first. So this is a website we create. I don't know if you can all see it in the room, but it has the address of the property in the website. And then something else about the website is it keeps all the data about the property, meaning it houses the pictures, it houses the videos, it houses a floor plan, it shows you the taxes. You can send this and schedule a showing. And this is very, very important because it's like a single place where you can park all the data. So if someone's going to look for your home, it's a great place to send them. The next thing we do is we create a 3D tour with virtual reality. And I'm not, because of the number of people here, I'm not going to play a sample of one right now. You can go to our website at any time. We have, all of our listings have a 3D tour running. And the way the 3D tour works, I'd like to just explain a little bit how they work and everything is, if you all can see this, this is like a dollhouse view of a home. And there's a little target right here. It's a blue dot. So what we do is we have a videographer on our team, and what she'll do is she'll go in, and it probably takes her a couple hours for every single house. She'll start in the corner of a room. She'll set a computer camera down. It has lots of lenses in it, and what it's doing is it's shooting lasers of the walls, floors, and ceilings, and it's going to make this model of your home that's realistic, and it's probably one of the best pieces of technologies we've ever invested in. What's interesting about this, though, is the reason it takes so much time is each one of these little dots, you know, a typical house could have 60 to 200 to 1,000 different views. She has to take one spot. She has to leave the room, kind of like when you went to the dentist and they were, you know, scanning your mouth for cavities. It's the same concept. You have to leave the room because you don't want to be in it, and you control this device with another computer, and then you have to move the house through the house every 2.5 feet is another point. So you have to continually move through the house to get these images, and you have to go up the steps and down the steps, and when you're all said and done, you have this amazing 3D video. A lot of things about it is it's a 24/7 open house. So this is, somebody can watch this at any time. They can use their iPhone, they can use an iPad, a PC, an Apple, it doesn't matter. And it's great for social media, it's great to be shared. So we watch how many views we get. That's one of the things we monitor. How many people are watching our videos, right? That's what we want to know. And what we found is there's a correlation between activity on video and how many people come to your front door and want to see the home, right? We can see that, right? If the activity drops off, you can see your showings change. The picture in the bottom right is actually me when they featured me on the front page of the Philadelphia Inquirer, because I was one of the first people that utilized the technology. And that's with the 3D glasses, right? So if you want to see this in virtual reality, you need to have the glasses, and then you can immerse yourself in the house. It's almost as if you're in the house. That's the experience you get. It's like riding a roller coaster. You know, you can walk through it and you feel everything in the house and you can see everything. It's a great piece of technology. My favorite part of this whole technology is the floor plan. So what we also do for every single house is we create a floor plan. And I don't know if everyone in the room can see this. If for some reason you can't, I'm going to pass this around, which is basically the same floor plan. And what I want to show you, if you could just pass that around. What I want to show you is that the purpose of the floor plan has a couple different reasons we do it. Number one, we do it because it calculates square footage, right? So what we found is many times the county says your house is 2,000 square feet, yet our Matterport says it's 2,200 square feet. And if that's the case, that means your house is more valuable than what the county thinks, because if you look at it at a price per square foot, you can ask more money for your house because it's larger. So that's the one reason we do the floor plans. The other reason is it's great for helping you lay out furniture, right? Figure out where everything should go. We also use it for those that want to make modifications to the home. Say you want to open up the wall between the living room and sitting room, and you want to know what the dimension is. It has a virtual ruler, so you can measure everything in the house once you have one of these plans. So if you needed to buy drapes, you could figure out without going there how big the window openings are and all that kind of stuff. It's a great piece of technology. This is AI. We do not tell this computer anything about your home. And if you'll notice, it identified every single room name, so it knows based on, how they've trained this model. They know, they can look at the kitchen, and when they see a stove and a refrigerator, they know it's a kitchen, right? Sometimes in the bedroom, when there's no bed, it could confuse the model. But what we found is it's been pretty good. It also, what's really interesting, this model also measures ceiling height. So if you have a third floor, those that are here at the workshop, if you have an older house and the third floor maybe has some steep roof lines, it'll also measure the height, and it will make adjustments if someone can't stand up and walk through your attic. It knows exactly how much square footage is in there. So great piece of technology and application. In the book, which is one of our latest programs that we've incorporated, we talk about how our open houses have changed significantly. And that what we've done is, our change is that we call 1,000 of your neighbors. So the reason we call 1,000 of your neighbors is we want to have so many people in the open house that whether you're interested or not, you don't know who's interested or not, but you see all these other people, which gives you the feeling of, uh-oh, this one might go quickly, or if I am interested, I might need to pay more because I've got, there's 50 people here right now, or 100, or whatever that might be. We've had 2 recent success stories from the open house where what happened was we called all the neighbors. Okay, so it's 1,000 people. Sometimes if someone's on, do not call, we draw a circle around a house and we try to figure out where 1,000 people are. We have to go a little further because in order to make that many calls, we have to just identify more people. But what happened in these 2 houses is we had so many people in the house, but we also had buyers come, and the buyers were represented by other agents. But what was so great is the agent didn't come, probably maybe just laziness, or just said, oh, I'll just send the buyer, which is fine, we don't care. So the buyer comes to our open house, and the buyer sees this frenzy of all these people, right? You can look outside and there's cars wrapped around the block, and it's bedlam. There's a lot of people there. So after the open house, there were people at the open house that were interested. Some of them called their agent that they're working with and said, hey, I was at this open house, I'm interested, but I saw, like, it was crazy, like, what the hell is going on there? So what happened is I get a call from their agent, and the agent says, hey, I'm sorry I couldn't make it at the open house, which is fine, but my buyer went and noticed there were a lot of people there. What's going on? I'm like, well, we have, it's a really great neighborhood. It's a great house. We're expecting a lot of interest. So that agent's then dialoguing with the buyer, which helps elevate your price. So in both cases, we utilized this strategy and found that it worked very well for our seller because they ended up getting, way over the asking price. But again, the other part is to having all these people in is maybe they know somebody, a friend, a family member, a coworker. That's the concept. So the old-fashioned way of the open house is you just plop a sign in the ground and you appear and the agent's sitting there. This is driving traffic to the open house, right? That's the idea. Get as many people in there as possible. So that's the concept of this. And we have two other programs to talk about today. And then at the end, we're going to, as I said, we're going to open it up to questions. So whatever questions you have, please hold them. We have a Ready, Set, Sell program. Again, this is covered in our new book, which incidentally, I think I spent a little over 3 years writing this. So it's something I do as a hobby, but it covers all our programs are in the book. The Ready, Set, Sell program was created to help our home sellers. It's a value add. It doesn't cost any extra. And we assembled a whole bunch of equipment and things that are helpful for our home sellers. So some of the things we have is we have an odor elimination machine. And the way that works is, let's just assume that you have a family member that's a smoker, or you have a pet in the house, or you're cooking and there's some kind of cooking odor in the house. So what this machine does is we run this machine when there's no one in the house and no pets, no people, and no plants, right? And it basically reconditions the air and takes out the overall majority of any of those smells. We just loaned it to somebody who had bought a home from us, and the home they were buying before they moved in, they had a pet, and the seller was a smoker. And they ran this machine for 10 days, and it completely eliminated that odor. So it works like a charm. The other things we offer are we have some moisture control machines. We have blowers, which we just use, like commercial blowers, like the renovation companies use. We had a home seller going to a 55-plus community, and I went there and looked at his home, and it was a split level, and I opened up the hatch in the lowest level of the house, which is a crawl space, and looked inside, and there's standing water on the floor of the basement. So I said to the home seller, we need to get this fixed. And basically, we called our handyman that was on the list. Handyman came in and redirected the downspouts so that the downspouts were discharged away from the foundation of the basement. And then we did dehumidification, and then we ran the air machine. And the result was our homeowner was ecstatic because he was able to move into his retirement home and get the house sold. And he didn't have to pay any extra for all the equipment that we loaned to the seller. So that's our Ready, Set, Sell program. The other new program we just unveiled a little over 2 years ago is our Red Carpet Key program. So this program is designed for home sellers. Many of them are, we do a lot of senior work, but both of these programs apply to any home sellers or future home sellers. Is a program where the seller turns over their key to us and we handle everything for them, and we don't charge any extra for that. Meaning they might have stuff in the house that they've been accumulating for 40 years, books and records and old TVs and chairs, tables, furniture, you name it. we have tons of different sources for all that personal property. So we sometimes arrange a tag sale for the house. Sometimes we'll take stuff to auction. We just had a house where we had a seller who went to memory care, and the children lived in California, and they flew in and met me, and they said they don't want to deal with anything, and they basically handed me the keys. They boarded their plane, went back to California, and I took care of everything. There was a tree down in the yard, we did that. We did landscaping, we did mulch. We had the handyman come in and do some touch-up painting. And then there were all the contents inside the house. We sourced every bit of the contents and figured out where it could go. Sometimes it's about donations. Some of our home sellers want donations for tax purposes. Others want want to try to sell it, so we have different sources for sale. We have resale shops, tag sales, auctions, antique dealers. We source cars. We just sourced a piece of medical equipment that we were able to donate back to Surrey Services, which was awesome. It was a Hoyer, so it's a lift, a Hoyer lift. The person that we were selling the house didn't need it anymore and said, just do whatever you can with it. And we said, well, the best place we could find was Surrey Services, who needed this lift, that they were doing some kind of training program, so we donated it to Surrey Services, and our home seller got a tax credit for doing that. So again, it's handling everything A to Z. That includes the maintenance, the repairs, the personal properties, you name it. And that's basically what this Red Carpet Key program is all about. And again, if you could hold that question, I'd appreciate it to the end. The next part we talk about, which is the internet presence and where we are on the internet and how that all works. And the bottom line is, as you can see from this chart, there's tons of different websites. What we know of is we try to get into every single one. We just don't know which is the best one at the time because they vacillate, right? Sometimes, Trulia is good, or Redfin's good, or, and Redfin was just sold. So things could change, like everything changes continually. But what we know is we want to push out your information to every single source that we can find. That's why we create a video. That's why we do a drone. That's why we do a floor plan, right, for every single property, because all that information gets sent to these various websites, and why they're super important. And then I'd also like everyone that's here today, and if you're going to be listening, from a future recording, please, connect with us on social. Facebook, we do lots of programs, Instagram, continually. Like we do things like we have Thanksgiving Day, we give out pies, right? You can get an apple pie or a pumpkin pie. These are huge pies. We have, 150, 200 people that come here and pick up pies. We do things for Valentine's Day. We have a flower giveaway where we give out a dozen roses for everyone. There's a ton of different programs we have. So please, if you could, connect with us, follow us. We'd be very appreciative of that. What I want to do right now is, and I know this is very quick, it's very surface level. The book is over, I think, 100 pages of information. So I want to just do a recap, if I can, to show you kind of what we covered today. Just a quick recap. We started off with the photography, the HDR photography, and why we do that. Hopefully that made sense to you. Then we talked about the three-dimensional, the Matterport tour. That's the one where we go in and film your house, and it's this amazing video that you can watch on any type of device. Then I showed you a picture. I had a pair of goggles where we did the virtual reality walkthrough. Again, not everyone has the goggles, but if you do, it's a great way to see our real estate. The detailed floor plan, which is right here, just key. We make this for every single property. And again, we talked about the benefits and why we do it. It's not just to confirm square footage, but it's to help if you're making changes in the house or want to lay out your furniture. The other thing we talked about was the drone. So every single property will fly a drone over your house and film it that way. And then we talked about the single property website, why we do that for Google, right? Everything's about Google today, getting at the top of a list. So it's important to have a website with your address of your property in there to help with Google. And then we did briefly talk social media. I was talking about liking us and following us and all those various sites, but we also promote, keep in mind, we're promoting every single property on social media, right? Because today, we don't know where the buyer is coming from, what they're looking at. There's so many different places and choices, so we just know we need to be everywhere. So when that buyer is ready to look for your home, they can find it. So that's why it's on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn and YouTube. We have YouTube videos we make of properties as well. We talked briefly, again, I could spend probably an entire day on direct mail because I've been using direct mail for 37 years. But we talked about these postcards that we're using. We target our audience, right? We could target postcards. We know exactly where the buyers are coming from in certain neighborhoods. So we reverse target. So we can figure out if your house is a 4-bedroom, we might be sending that postcard to people that own 3-bedroom homes, right? Because they're going to want to upsize into something larger, right? So we look at all kinds of data to figure out who the right target is to send the cards to. And then the open house invitation, one of our favorite programs. It works really well. Again, that's calling 1,000 of your neighbors to get them to come. The absorption we talked about, which is, again, it was just trying to figure out the best time to sell your home based on some analytical data. The other one was, which we didn't talk about, because I don't know who in the room has an historic home, but we have a very specific historic home division that does some very specialized things. And remember in the beginning, we talked about starting a year in advance. A historic home takes that long for us for research, right? We have a researcher that will write some really interesting and pull information data on a historic home, because people that buy historic homes love historic homes, so we cater to that market. And then the two most recent programs we started is the Ready, Set, Sell program, which is right here. We talked about all the equipment that's available for you at no cost, and our Red Carpet Key program, where if you have a loved one or you just don't want to be involved and you want us to handle everything, we're well set up to do that, and we'd be happy to do that. The Home Concierge was the other thing we talked about, which was if you need a plumber, a painter, a carpenter, you're welcome to call us at any time. You can fill a form on the website. That's the best place to go, where you tell us what you need. The more data you tell us, like, do you want someone that can do it quickly? Are you on a budget? Do you want somebody who has certain experience level? So the more data you tell us, we match that person in our database to what your needs are. And the final thing we talked about is this easy exit listing agreement, right? So if it's any time in 2 weeks advance written notice. If you're unhappy with the level of service, you don't have to retain us. You can basically cancel us. So that was kind of it in a nutshell. We're going to talk a little bit about a couple of other housekeeping items. We're going to have a survey for everyone today to fill out, because I like to know how this resonates with you and what changes we could make to improve our workshops, right? So that's really important to us. And then we do have some specialized services for seniors. For those in the audience that has some senior housing needs, we have a whole host of services for senior homeowners that we can help them with. And again, it's our professional network of people. So today we talked about the all-inclusive home marketing and what sets us apart. The two things that I wanted to talk about, which we said in the beginning of the presentation we would, was The first one is about tax savings and how to save on the sale of your home. If you're a joint tax filer, you can save up to $500,000 if you've lived in the house for 2 of the past 5 years as your primary residence, and that's for a joint tax filer. If you're a single tax filer, you can save up to $250,000 on the sale of your home. Most people don't realize that this is possible. And the other thing about this program is it's every 2 years, so you could live in your house for 2 years as a primary resident, decide to sell, get the benefit, save $500,000 on the sale of your home, and then do it all over again and get this savings again. It's a great, great program, this federal exclusion. And again, the way it really works is the IRS looks at what you paid for your house, right, what your original cost was, and you can add to that all the improvements you've done, the capital improvements like roof and kitchen and bathrooms. You add that to your cost, and what you're going to do is you're going to subtract from your selling price. So that's that net gain. And they look at that net gain and say, if your net gain is, $1 million, you can exclude $500,000 from taxes. So that's a huge, huge benefit, this program right here. And the second thing we said we were going to talk about are what kind of improvements are really important to do for your house and where you get your highest return. And the answer to that question is you get the highest return of investment on the exterior of your house. It has to do with first impressions. So they did a study and they looked at all these improvements and said if you do things, how much money does it return? The front door returned 101%. Yet kitchens and bathrooms were maybe like 55 cents on the dollar. So if you spend today and go out and get a brand new kitchen, it's not anticipated you're going to get that money back. So we're very careful about advising you when we come out to figure out what things you should do. We look at these charts and schedules to see what your return on investment is. And then what we try to do is pick the things that we get the highest return for the least cost. So like the front yard, the mulch, the presentation at the front door. That's very important. Inside the house, your return on investment falls as you go through the home. So things where you can get a decent return are things like paint, right? That's where you can get your highest return. Kitchens and bathrooms, not as much. So if your kitchen and bathroom was dated, maybe we're looking at changing some of the pieces of it. Or maybe we're going to suggest maybe you paint the kitchen cabinets, right? If they're not an appropriate color for today and the countertop is, it's not quartz or granite, maybe we'll look at maybe just doing a light modification to the kitchen so that we get you a good return on investment. So again, these were the 2 things that I said in the beginning of the presentation we're going to talk about today, and I just wanted to make sure you had that as well. Okay, so again, I appreciate everyone coming today and spending the hour with us. I know you have a lot of questions, so let's begin. I saw a hand up in the audience over there. Okay, go ahead.
Do you charge extra for any of these services?
Oh, I love that question. I hope. So the answer is everything that we talked about today from the marketing of the home and some of the other programs, that's all part of my service. There's no extra cost for that. I've decided to set myself up as like a red carpet full service agent. So these services are all included at no additional cost. And I saw a hand up. You had a question over there. Okay.
How quickly can you get my home on the market?
Okay, that's a very good question. So speed and time, it can be done. Honest answer is you could call an agent and they could get your home on the market in a day or 2 days. But let's be realistic. The marketing and all the stuff we covered here today, it's not really feasible to get that done in a day. So we need a solid week of creative time. That's for filming, for taking all the imagery, for doing the drone, for writing all the copy and everything. So we talked earlier about starting the process 6 months or a year in advance. That's to get the inspections and all the other things done. So any other questions? Sure.
What makes your marketing different from other realtors?
Wow, it's a loaded question. The marketing program we put together, we believe we're the only company that offers all these marketing programs. And we designed it because my focus is on representation of home sellers. That's the majority of what I do. So we do these same services regardless of whether you're selling a 1-bedroom or a 10-bedroom. It's all the same services. What we found is a lot of the competition might do parts and pieces of what we do, but I've yet to find someone that does everything that we do for our marketing. But good, that was a good question. I like that one. Sure, over there, the hand.
Yeah, so do I have to make like any repairs before listing, or can I just sell as is?
So you can absolutely sell the property without making any repairs. And we talked about the pre-sale home inspection, about, you know, trying to figure out what things would a likely inspection reveal. So you have two options. Your option one is you could sell the house and do virtually nothing. Or two, you can do the pre-sale home inspection and find out what things are needed and fix some of them. But I wouldn't recommend fixing all of them. So it's really up to you, and to try to figure out what your personal situation, what your time frame is, and economically what you have available to work with as to what you want to fix. But that was a really good question. It looks like I think those are all the questions, and I'm gonna thank everybody for coming. What I can tell you is, if you'd like to go online and you had any questions you couldn't answer today, or you get home and you thought, geez, I wish I'd asked the question about, you know, whatever, you're welcome to. You can email, you can call, go on the website if you want to see some sample videos and tours that we've done for other homes. But I'm very appreciative for everyone's time spending with me today, and I thank you very much.